the Fab24 podcast, when we're going to be discussing with some of the highlight speakers to bring a little bit more about innovation, creativity, and we are thrilled to be here at Ibero Puebla campus to talk about more about digital fabrication, creation, and so much more. And today we have a special person to talk with us, right? So please welcome Alejandro Mayoral. How are you, Alejandro?
Good, thank you, Camila. Thank you, Diego, for having me.
No, actually, we are pretty excited because, Fab24, it's a big event with a lot of amazing people. And today, to discuss a little bit about the subjects, I think is quite interesting. So how about we start with the first question? So what are some of the core goals of the Indigenous Friends Association, and how did your personal experience shape the foundation in this initiative? Tell us a little bit more about you too.
Oh, thank you, Camila. Well, I'm Mexican myself. I was born in Mexico City, and I moved to Toronto 10 years ago. And part of the journey was to start connecting the digital world with Indigenous communities. So what is the potential of bringing traditional knowledge from different Indigenous communities in the creation of technology? So that exploration 10 years ago, it was a total disconnection. There was not many authors, there was not many programs regarding that. So I have the opportunity to complete a master's in interdisciplinary studies at York University in Toronto. And with that, it was really interesting to see the connections between traditional knowledge and digital technologies. And what we do in the Indigenous Friends Association, that is basically the output, and I would say even the outcome of the master's and PhD, was bridging the gap between Indigenous peoples and digital tech in order to bring Indigenous peoples to the tech industry. But more importantly, how we can design a more ethical digital technology. And how we can do that is including and inserting traditional knowledge in the design of digital applications. So what we do in IFA, in the Indigenous Friends Association, is we do a lot of educational programs with the youth across Canada, where they develop digital skills, but at the same time they are connected with their culture. So at the same time that they are with a technical facilitator, they are with elders, knowledge keepers, learning about their culture. So it's a way to retain the youth, but at the same time, how they can develop and start creating technology in many different ways. The second thing is about research, understanding what is happening across Indigenous communities. And we might think that Indigenous communities, the only thing that they need is infrastructure, connection to the internet. But actually, it's deeper than that. There is a total disconnection between the curriculum and the digital technologies and how a community works. So it's really interesting. And finally, we are also creating technology, because what we're saying is we really need to start preaching what we are saying to the companies and a lot of our partners. So what we are doing is an educational platform for Indigenous communities and how they can start developing the digital skills, but how they can mentor each other. How actually they can connect with mentors outside of their communities, and how they can learn other types of skills in order to get to the tech industry, and more importantly, how they can become leaders in the industry.
I think definitely it's a quite interesting subject, because when we think in tech, we are thinking more in these futuristic cities, right? And we forgot it's something that becomes more of our daily lives, right? And it's important to consider that everyone should get close to this technology.
I think you do an amazing job. It's so important for the communities, not only in Canada, or around the world, because this example to everyone do the same.
Yes, and one thing that I really want to share with all the community is when we think about technology and when we think about Indigenous peoples, I think I want to share that we are surrounded of Indigenous technologies, but we usually forget that actually they are technologies, or we don't consider technologies because they are outside of Western science. So we have a lot of food systems, like the milpa, for example, that it's an agricultural system. It's an Indigenous technology that has passed generations over generations, but we don't call it Indigenous technology. Of course, a lot of food production, as I already mentioned, but also a lot of ways of teaching, ways of economies, circular economies that are already implemented in many communities. That's part of the Indigenous technologies, and we usually forget why. And this is very interesting because Indigenous technologies, and this is something that even though there is a lot of different communities and there is a lot of diversity among Indigenous communities, there are some commonalities, and the connection and with community, the connection with family, and the connection with the land is very intricate to the technology itself. So when we talk about digital technologies that are connected to traditional knowledge, we need to include these principles. We need to include protocols. And that is something that sometimes for engineers, for computer scientists, for technologists, it's something very uncomfortable because we need to be open and learn differently. And we need to start thinking in a completely different way. And of course, we need to be patient. And that's something that we forgot in the tech industry a long time ago.
Yeah, and definitely how you actually say it, how technology it actually joined with the community. It's not just technology and that's it, right? It's go way beyond that, people and a lot of knowledge that actually is shared during different generations, right? And I think it's how Diego say it, it's an amazing job. So can you tell us about a particular project where technology has played a key role in preserving or promoting indigenous culture, and what was the reaction that you have seen from the community, which is quite important, right?
This reaction.
And first and foremost, I want to say that indigenous peoples have been surrounded of technology for a long period of time. Especially with migration patterns across the world, a lot of the youth are in cities, are around all of us. And everywhere in the world you go, in the main cities, you will find a lot of indigenous populations. So technology is not something new for communities. However, what it has been interesting to see when actually communities reappropriate technology, and actually there is a narrative that we need to change a lot. It's not just about having access to technology, but having control and ownership of the technology. And there are many examples around the world with different communities. I'm just gonna go with two specific examples. One that is in Mexico, and I want to recognize the territory that we are. In the state of Oaxaca, there is the organization called Redes. They have a very interesting project, Rizomática, where a lot of indigenous communities, where like the national telecommunications companies, they don't want to enter these small communities because it's not profitable. So what they decided is to create their own infrastructure, buy their own servers, their own antennas, and start like broadcasting and serving the communities themselves. And all the business model is based in a community approach. What is really interesting, all the maintenance and all the different requirements, technical requirements, are sustainable within the community, and they follow community protocols. They have community assemblies to decide about the technology and what is the type of technologies that they want to engage with. So that is one, and you can see the change, a change completely in how technology is perceived, and how actually all the stakeholders within this type of initiatives, they play a key role in the leadership of implementing these technologies. Another very interesting, and especially for a lot of people across the world, is with artificial intelligence. And now that everyone is talking about AI and all these different technologies, there is a lot of examples, but there is one very particular with Michael Running Wolf, who is Cherokee, and he's using AI in order to recover and preserve the Cherokee language, because a lot of the elders are dying and they are not able to pass their knowledge to newer generations, to younger generations. What is happening is basically how we can start using some of the AI tools. However, one very particular point is how we can embrace indigenous data sovereignty, how we can protect that data for going outside of the control of the communities, and how it's so important that these language models, at the end of the day, are under the control of the communities.
God,
It's amazing.
yeah, and you get really excited because we can actually see how technology is making an impact, right? And I really love when it comes to the community, and we see it during the Fab network, right? How people is looking to make solutions for communities, how you already explained, and it's amazing the creativity and how they implement it, right?
Yeah, something very important that you say, the problematics that you share with us is very interesting, because in some points, the people, we don't see that, we don't feel that. And the moment we need everyone to be part of that, it is one of the questions we want to do with you. What are the biggest challenges you face with the implementation technology solution in indigenous community? How did you overcome them, and what do you expect benefits have you encountered in the process?
Okay. This is a little bit of my entire PhD research, so I can speak for 3 hours, but I'll try to synthesize the entire outputs of the research. One very particular thing is that digital technologies come from a very specific point of view, from a very specific way of thinking. When you go to a community, and especially in remote communities, you have very different ways of living. You have different ways of thinking. Different approach to time, different approach to learning, different approach to understand a lot of the needs of the community. So when you are trying to implement a solution, and especially a digital technology that was designed outside of the community, you need to be able to understand and to listen to the community needs. And I understand that sometimes, and in the majority of cases, they don't need the technology. So what happens is to listen the real needs and start modifying and adapting the technology to the community needs. And I think one particular challenge that we all have is how we can provide control to the technologies to the community, and especially with the big tech companies, and how they continue not just affecting indigenous communities, but all of us, how they continue to extract data from our different devices. It's so important that in these specific communities that have been marginalized for centuries, how we can bring back that, that control of their data. The extraction of data has been happening for centuries within indigenous communities, not with the digital tech, of course, but it has been through academics, through a lot of the pioneers that went into the communities and started extracting the data and the different, knowledges within the communities. So now with digital tech, now we have an opportunity to provide that control back to the communities, and how now they can have a say in how to design what is coming for them.
Definitely, I think it's so important to be part of this, how you say it too, right? Before how we're supposed to actually use technology and use it as a tool, not just consume of it. And I think you are right when you will start this question. I think it's
something important for me. The technology is not the solution. It's the tool. In some points, it's like, oh no, this technology is going to change the world and no more problems. But it's not that.
And I think how you say at the beginning, right? It's quite a dense topic, right? And there's a lot of stuff going on, and how you say it, a lot of technologies are developed during the time, and the world goes really fast.
And one particular thing that I want everyone in the network to start thinking about it and really reflect is the privileges that we all have, especially when you are in a university or in a research center, or even in a museum, in any gallery, library, archive, or museum. Like, you have certain tools and certain privileges that when you want to apply the technology without listening to the community, there is a power dynamic. And we need to recognize that when we are going to the communities. So when we have this goodwill to support communities, we also need to have the, the courage, and actually we need to be challenged, and we need to be more open to be guided by community members.
And definitely, I think that it's going to help to wrap up this interview, because we're trying to share a little bit more of what's going on here in Fab24 and all these amazing people that is here with us. So looking ahead, I know it's a hard question, but what are your hopes and goals for the role of technology? You already say it, how it's an amazing tool to promote cultural equity, right?
It's one big thing, and we have been talking with a lot of community members across different geographies, is how it's so important that these new approaches to technology can actually focus on climate change. I think we all, in every part of the world, we are seeing the consequences of climate change. It's not about ending climate change, it's adapting to climate change. We need just to adapt, but it's very important that now technologies are responding to these lines. And now I see a shift, because now it's obvious that we are not doing a great job around climate. So it's so important to start seeing how all these technologies are impacting the climate. So when we are designing a new approach, a new application, how we are integrating the variables of the climate within our designs. And a lot of people, and I can share this with you, in Mexico, in Canada, even in the US, how they are realizing that indigenous communities have been doing this for centuries. But of course, they haven't been listened. And now, with the climate crisis that we have, I think there is a lot of hope. And just going beyond the specific challenge that a lot of indigenous communities are facing, also I think all of us, regardless if we are indigenous or not, I think we are seeing the consequences of digital tech. And I think these type of solutions that are more ethical can bring new ways of seeing technology, new ways of using technology, and more importantly, how that can look like for newer generations and for future generations. And as some of the elders have told me and have taught me, share with everyone that the technology that we create today is going to have an impact in 7 generations ahead. So think about it, how you are going to design a technology that is going to have an impact in 150, 200 years.
Actually, I think that's a great phrase and it's something to keep in mind, right? Thank you so much, Alejandro. I think it was an amazing conversation, and I know there's so much more of this subject.
Just to share with everyone, if everyone is interested to learn more, if you can follow us in our social media channels, we have our facebook.com/Indigenous Friends, or also in Instagram at Indigenous Friends. You can find us and you can learn more about all these projects.
And I think definitely check it out, because I think it's quite important to keep making community and ensuring all these important projects that is making an impact, right?
Yeah, everyone can be part of the change. I think this is a perfect example for that.
And how Alejandro said it, it's not just about being indigenous, it actually affect everyone, and we must be part of the develop and the design to be part of this global community, right?
Yes, and I think we have a big opportunity right now, and especially in these spaces where people are, coming from different disciplines, from different geographies. This is the space of creation, and the spaces to listen to more people and start connecting the dots in the new solutions.
I love it. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Alejandro.
much.
Thank you so much.
And I think we must need to go to enjoy Fab24, right? After all, it's an amazing week full of activities and more. So please stay tuned for next episodes. We're having a lot of cool interviews talking about digital fabrication technology and a lot much more. Thank you so much for joining us, and see you at the next time.
Bye.